Hello, my wonderful viewers. Welcome back to the news. Ibrahim Babangida's recent confession, him finally admitting that Chief MKO Abiola won the 1993 presidential election, has reopened an old wound, a wound that never truly healed. With a boldness only those unburdened by consequences can possess, he claims that democracy was interrupted, but Nigeria survived. But the question that burns in the heart of every true patriotic Nigeria is that how did Nigeria survive? Did Nigeria survive in the blood of those who were gunned down during the protests for June 12th? Did Nigeria survive in the cries of mothers who lost their children to bullets while demanding the return of their mandates? Did Nigeria survive in the agony of a nation forced into the shadows of military tyranny while the will of the people was mocked and disregarded? When Babangida and his cycle of power annoyed the fairest election our nation has ever, produced or has ever witnessed, they did not interrupt democracy. They killed it. They killed democracy. But then, a lot of persons have expressed mixed reactions. You see, IBB also blamed Abacha for annulling the 1993 presidential election. Yes, my country people. But the thing is, Sani Abacha is dead. But him making this statement now, it's somehow, I don't really know. It's somehow, but it's also fair that he made this statement. Now that he has pushed the blame to Sani Abacha who is dead, how can he defend himself? How can he tell his own side of the story? A lot of personalities, dignitaries were present at that, event. But Peter Obi also made his own comments that the accident of history is most regrettable. That particular accident of history is most regrettable. So he also, appreciated the glorious launch of President Babangida's long-awaited biography titled A Journey in Service at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja. And Obi also made some comments that, Nigeria should learn to appreciate and also recognize those that won elections, that he hopes that true winners of past elections will be recognized, just like what, IBB has done recently. So there have been a lot of comments regarding IBB's, book launch. And this book launch has received a lot of knocks. It has received a lot of commendations, and so many comments are still coming in. But guys, what are your thoughts on this? Because according to Babangida, democracy survived. Democracy survived. How did democracy survive in Nigeria when till now voices are silenced? People's voices are being silenced by those in power. Those in power would not let opposition or critics to speak. So this is just it, my country people. This is just it. And him saying Nigeria survived. Well, we are still bleeding. We are still bleeding. We are still crawling through the rumble of the destruction they caused in the past. How about the sacrifice of our past heroes? With what we are seeing today, it seems that their sacrifice, was kind of in vain. But then, what can we say? We are still crawling in the rumbles of their destruction. We are still paying the price of their greed, the price of their hunger power. We are still paying for it till today. Has justice truly been done? How about those who lost their lives? Nigeria will forever be haunted by the ghost of June 12th. By the ghost of June 12th. Because nobody will ever forget. Let's, put it this way. IBB's administration brought about a whole lot of economic reforms. Yes, it brought about tangible economic reforms. Nobody can deny that in Nigeria. But his administration was stained by this June 12th massacre, by this June 12th annulment, by this, June 12th election. Nobody will forget this June 12th. Nigerians will never forget. That's just how it is. And some persons are even saying that is how one day, probably in 2035 or in 2045, they will come and say Peter Obi won the 2023 election, or the true winner of the 2023 election will finally be declared after 20 or 30 years after. They will come and tell us who won the election. So my country people, what are your thoughts on this? It was so unfortunate that MKO Abiola won the election and the election was cancelled. He was incarcerated. He was eventually killed. No amount of confession can appease and suppress the atrocity that was committed in the past. No amount of confession can really wipe off the atrocities that were committed in the past. Had it been Nigeria was actually a sane nation, probably after IBB made this declaration, who knows what would have happened? He would have probably been arrested or something would have happened. But I mean, he made a statement and people were actually clapping. People were clapping while he was making these statements. Everybody knew deep down this admission is just for social media sake, for public sake. Everybody knew. Everybody knows that Abiola won the election and the election was annulled. So him saying it now is just for history to write it down that he made a declaration that MKO Abiola truly won the election. But the government back then, they failed to recognize him that he won the election. So my country people, at this point, this confession now will not really do anything. The confession is of no use because Nigeria has passed that stage. We are moving forwards and we are not going backwards. Even if they admit everything, even on the book he wrote, the June 12th election result was present in the book and everything. But how are we going to rectify the mistakes of the past? We can't rectify what has happened in the past. We can only make adjustments and move forward. But how about those that their lives were lost during that June 12th? Those that their blood was spilled? What can they do to restore, the lives of those that actually lost their lives back then? So many people's lives were ruined because of June 12th. How can we appease the souls of those people? So my country people, what are your thoughts on this? I'm dropping here. Kindly share your thoughts concerning this.